Just satsang, no expectations. Agatrai, a village near Junagadh, was the home of Parvatbai, a devoted disciple of Ramanand Swami. Parvatbai, along with Muktanand Swami and Mayaram Bhatt, had made a solemn vow they would not be swayed by any miracles, even if someone showed Sri Radha Krishna in their palm. Their unwavering loyalty was reserved solely for Ramanand Swami. However, upon his first meeting with Nilkanthvarni, Parvatbai's conviction shifted. He recognized Nilkanthvarni as Supreme Bhagwan. Parvatbai was a leading devotee in satsang. Ramanand Swami always included him in important decisions regarding satsang. When Ramanand Swami decided to appoint Sriji Maharaj as his successor in Jetpur, he first disclosed this to Ramdas Swami, Muktanand Swami, and Parvatbai in private. Such was the esteemed position of Parvatbai in the satsang. Beyond his involvement in satsang decisions, his spiritual state was equally profound. Even during mundane tasks such as working in his fields, Parvatbai maintained his aniks. He would offer thar in Mansi to Sriji Maharaj. Once, while Parvatbai was engaged in Mansi, a fellow farmer shook him, and a rotlo, or millet bread, and yogurt materialized from his empty hands, falling to the ground. Sriji Maharaj once explained the definition of a true satsangi and told Muktanand Swami and Brahmanand Swami that they were gun buddhi satsangis, meaning their spiritual state was still influenced by the three guns, sattvagun, rajagun, and tamogun. He, however, considered Parvatbai and Gordhanbai to be his true satsangis. Furthermore, when Swarupanand Swami experienced inner turmoil, Sriji Maharaj advised him to listen to Parvatbai's katha for solace. Parvatbai was such a great devotee and was deeply devoted to Sriji Maharaj. On one occasion, Sriji Maharaj requested grains from Parvatbai for sadavrat, or an almshouse. Without a moment's hesitation, Parvatbai donated his entire stored supply, 16 karshi of grains, or approximately 6,400 kilograms of grains, which required 8 to 10 carts for transport. However, on another occasion, the same devoted Parvatbai went to Gadara to be in Sriji Maharaj's presence and have his darshan. For 7 days, Parvatbai sat near Sriji Maharaj, absorbing his darshan and listening to his katha. One day, Sriji Maharaj asked the brahmachari, "Where does Parvatbai eat?" "Maharaj, he must be eating in the darbar," the brahmachari replied. Sriji Maharaj then asked Jivuba the same question, to which she responded, "Doesn't he eat here? The brahmachari must be feeding him." Finally, Sriji Maharaj asked Parvatbai directly, "Where do you eat?" With humility, Parvatbai answered, "Maharaj, I nibble on some dalia, or roasted gram, here and there. Just having your darshan satisfies me." Despite such an extraordinary act of generosity of donating his whole livelihood, no one in Gadara inquired about his own meals. Still, Parvatbai did not feel disheartened. He never slackened in satsang, nor did he harbor any resentment toward Sriji Maharaj, the Swamis, or the devotees. He remained steadfast in his seva and bhakti. Seeing Parvatbai's transcendent state and his life free from any expectations, Sriji Maharaj was immensely pleased. In Vachanamrut Gadara section 1 number 70, Sriji Maharaj has said, "If I practice satsang, my ill body will recover," or "As I am childless, may I get a son," or "As my sons are dying, may they stay alive," or "Since I am poor, may I become rich," or "If I do satsang, I will regain my lost assets." One should not practice satsang harboring desires for such material gains. We too should strive to practice satsang selflessly, solely for the purpose of our moksha. By doing so, we will truly please Sriji Maharaj and Mahant Swami Maharaj. A dedication beyond compare. Among Sriji Maharaj's devotees, Dada Kachar stood out as a paragon of virtues. His unwavering love for Sriji Maharaj was unmatched, and he remained ever eager to obey every agna of Sriji Maharaj. Time and again, Sriji Maharaj put Dada Kachar through severe tests, yet he emerged victorious in each one. That is why Sriji Maharaj would say, "Dado is Dado. Dado is my everything. I cannot live without him." Once Shiji Maharaj called Dada Kachar and said, "Dada, transfer this estate to your sisters." Without a second thought, Dada Kachar immediately handed over his entire wealth to them without any hesitation. Shiji Maharaj then told him, "You no longer have a right to stay here. If you wish to stay, you must remain as a servant." Without question, Dada Kachar started living as a mere servant in his own palace. Another time, in a sabha, Shiji Maharaj publicly said, "You are dismissed from your service. Leave immediately." Many present in the sabha were confused and wondered why Shiji Maharaj was treating such a great devotee this way. But Dada Kachar had no such doubts. Without uttering a single word, he simply bowed at Shiji Maharaj's feet and left with his wife, Jashuba, and son, Baba Kachar. As they departed, Baba Kachar, hungry, began crying. Dada Kachar went to the granary to fetch some gram flour, but Harji Thakur refused to give any, saying, "Maharaj has not given permission." Without arguing, Dada Kachar left empty-handed. As Dada Kachar reached the outskirts of the village, Shiji Maharaj suddenly burst into tears in the darbar. He immediately said, "Call Dada back." When Dada Kachar returned, Shiji Maharaj embraced him and restored his estate by taking it back from his sisters. Despite such harsh tests, Dada Kachar never wavered. He remained as obedient as a puppet in Shiji Maharaj's hands, never questioning his actions or harboring doubts about him. At Shiji Maharaj's request, Dada Kachar selflessly dedicated his entire darbar to the swamis and devotees. Shiji Maharaj frequently organized grand festivals in Gadara, hosting thousands of devotees. The expenses were enormous, yet Dada Kachar never hesitated to spend for Shiji Maharaj's sake. Even when his estate was under legal dispute in the Bhavnagar court, making finances tight, he never once complained to Shiji Maharaj. He never doubted, "If Maharaj is truly Bhagwan, why is he not removing my suffering?" Shiji Maharaj lived in Dada Kachar's darbar for 28 years, calling it his own home. He once explained why. "Even if I strike Dada 5 times a day, he will still tolerate it. I never allow him to settle in one place, and I must have made him move 56 times by now. Yet, Dada has never even wondered, why is Maharaj doing this to me? That is why I choose to stay here." If we cultivate the same level of surrender, faith, and unwavering bhakti as Dada Kachar, then no hardship or challenge will shake our satsang. Shiji Maharaj himself will reside eternally in our hearts, making it his divine abode. To prosper in worldly affairs. Once Gunatitanand Swami addressed an assembly and said, "According to Shiji Maharaj's Agna, those who set aside a 10th or 20th of their earnings for dharmado will never face loss. Their wealth will not be burned, stolen, or seized by the king." Among those present was Darbar Manasio Kuman of Senjal, a devoted follower. With firm faith in Swami's words, he began setting aside some of his earnings for dharmado. From his annual income of 10,000 rupees, he regularly donated a 10th according to the Shikshapatri. As a result, his wealth grew immensely, reaching 2 lakh rupees within a short time. He stored this amount in 2 large pots and buried them deep within a room in his house. Former servant, dismissed for misconduct, knew about this hidden treasure. One night, he devised a plan to steal the buried wealth. Since Manasio Kuman's palace was near a river, the servant dug an underground tunnel from the riverbank leading towards the room. However, upon reaching his destination, he found nothing. Frustrated and disappointed, he left empty-handed. The next morning, Manasio Kuman's son, Jiva Kuman, noticed the tunnel in the room and immediately alerted his father, exclaiming, "Bapu, thieves have stolen the treasure during the night." Manasio Kuman calmly replied, "Jiva, don't worry. I have already set aside Bhagwan's share." When they checked inside the room, the vessels of wealth were untouched just as they had been left. Gunatitanand Swami emphasized, to prosper in worldly affairs, one should offer a 10th or 20th of their earnings to Thakurji. Similarly, Pramukh Swami Maharaj reinforced this principle, saying, "Give a 10th or 20th of your income to Thakurji, and you shall be freed from vasana, or deep desire for material things which are the cause of our rebirths. Thus, for a life of peace, prosperity, and spiritual fulfillment, one must practice regular and sincere dharmadho. Unflinching conviction, unshakable understanding. Ladiba from Bhuj was a devoted disciple of Ramanand Swami. After Ramanand Swami's passing, she had a divine darshan of Shriji Maharaj in the murti of Raghunathji at the Raghunathji temple in Bhuj. From that moment on, her conviction in Shriji Maharaj's supreme divinity became unwavering. She dedicated herself entirely, body, mind, and wealth, to Shriji Maharaj and immersed herself in his bhakti. By Shriji Maharaj's grace, she even attained samadhi. Once, Shriji Maharaj celebrated a grand Annakut festival in Bhuj due to Ladiba's deep inner wish. During the assembly, Shriji Maharaj reinforced the importance of unwavering faith, saying, "As long as one's conviction in my divine form remains steadfast, my grace will always be upon them. However, if doubts, arguments, or wavering thoughts arise, I will become helpless." Ladiba etched these words deep into her heart. To test her resolute faith, one day Shriji Maharaj gave her an agna. Dress like a married woman, note that she was a widow, wear a colorful sari, apply a red chandlo, part your hair with sindur or vermilion powder, and walk through the crowded marketplace carrying a water pot on your head. At that time, society imposed strict norms on widows, making this an extremely challenging agna. Yet, without hesitation, Ladiba obeyed, adorning herself like a happily married woman. She did not let doubt cloud her mind with thoughts like, "What will society think?" With a pot on her head and singing devotional hymns, she walked boldly through the busy marketplace. People were astonished to see her in such attire. Some even mocked her, asking, "Ladi, whose house are you getting married into?" With unshaken conviction, she replied, "Purushottam Narayan's." When she returned, Shriji Maharaj was immensely pleased with her steadfastness and bhakti. In Vachanamrut Loya No. 3, Shriji Maharaj says, "What would a person who has faith in God and his Sant coupled with the knowledge of their greatness not do for the sake of God and his Sant? For them, he would renounce his family, renounce any fear of public ridicule, renounce the kingdom, renounce pleasures, renounce wealth, renounce his wife, and, in the case of a woman, she would renounce her husband." When such absolute reverence and unwavering faith exists, thoughts like, "What will people think?" disappear, and only Shriji Maharaj and his Sant remain the sole focus of one's life. Highest level of understanding. In the village of Nainpur in Mahemdabad Taluka, or the Taluka district, there lived a devoted bhakta of Shriji Maharaj, Devji Bhagat. He lived a life of detachment from his physical self. Both he and his wife, Kankuba, were completely immersed in the bhakti of Shriji Maharaj day and night. They had only one son, who, by Shriji Maharaj's grace, was blessed with Niravaran Drashti, or divine vision. Sitting at home, he would witness Shriji Maharaj's divine acts and constantly meditate upon his murti in his heart. In Samvat 1876 or 1819 AD, when their son turned 20 years old, proposals for his marriage started arriving. However, Devji Bhagat and Kankuba had only one heartfelt prayer for Shriji Maharaj. They said, "O Maharaj, let our son belong solely to you. Please bless him so that he remains detached from Maya, or worldly affairs." As if responding to their inner plea, Shriji Maharaj suddenly took their son to Akshardham. Typically, when an only son passes away at a young age, parents are left devastated, often losing their sanity in grief. But Devji Bhagat and Kankuba remained steadfast, believing, "Our son has now been permanently placed in Shriji Maharaj's seva." Understanding that relatives and villagers would come to mourn, which might lead them to weep unnecessarily, Devji Bhagat reasoned, "Instead of grieving, wouldn't it be better to engage in bhajan and bhakti of Bhagwan?" He told his wife, "I will go to the farm and you go to Gadra. Take a pot of ghee from our buffaloes and prepare a meal for Shriji Maharaj and the Swamis. I will simply make and eat dry rotlas in the field. This way, we can peacefully continue our bhakti towards Bhagwan. They locked their home and went their separate ways. Devji Bhagat to the fields and Kankuba towards Gadara. Seeing their locked home, relatives and villagers who had come to offer condolences had no choice but to return. When Kankuba reached Gadara, she bowed at Shriji Maharaj's feet. Shriji Maharaj asked, "Is Patel happy?" She replied, "Maharaj, he was happy before, but now he is even happier." Shriji Maharaj, knowing everything, wanted to highlight their deep faith in Samjan to the assembly. So he asked, "What happened? Tell us." With absolute composure, Kankuba narrated the passing of their son. Hearing this, the entire Sabha was astonished. Shriji Maharaj then said, "Look at this devotee's understanding. His only young son has passed away, yet he has sent a pot of ghee to prepare a meal for the Swamis and me. Meanwhile, in this darbar, the grief over Panchuba's daughter, Hiruba's passing, has not subsided, and even my meal was stopped. But Hiruba was simply fulfilling her past life's resolve to serve me a meal. She was reborn, served me a meal, and then returned to Akshardham." Upon hearing Shriji Maharaj's words, everyone in the darbar realized their mistake and understood that there was no reason to grieve. Life inevitably brings joys and sorrows, but if we accept Bhagwan as the Sarvakarta, or the all-doer, and our eternal well-wisher, we will find inner peace and remain steadfast in satsang. Devji Bhagat and Kankuba's profound understanding deeply impressed everyone. This very understanding earned Devji Bhagat a place among the sacred names in Shriji Maharaj's Mara. If we too cultivate such supreme samjan, we can find a place among the beads or the manka of Shriji Maharaj's Mara as well. Here comes our Jati. Surakachar, a Param Bhaktaraj, or supreme devotee of Loya village, had dedicated his entire life to satsang. He shared an extraordinary bond with Shriji Maharaj and was one of his closest friends. He strictly adhered to the code of dharma in satsang and observed such an unwavering vow of celibacy that even Kamdev, or the god of desire, could not shake his resolve. Once, Surakachar traveled to Jasdan for work and stayed in Thakur Sahib's palace. However, Thakur Sahib disliked Swaminarayan Bhagwan. A wicked thought entered his mind: to corrupt Surakachar and defame both Swaminarayan Bhagwan and his devotees in society. At midnight, Thakur Sahib sent an immoral woman to Surakachar's room. She knocked on the door. Surakachar, who was alert even in his sleep, immediately called out, "Who is it?" With a soft, pleading voice, the woman said, "I live in this house. My son has a fever, and I need medicine. Please, open the door." With a cautious heart, Surakachar slowly opened the door, but the woman suddenly pushed her way inside. She tried to seduce him with vile gestures. Realizing the trap, Surakachar immediately drew his sword. In Gunatitanand Swami's Vat, chapter 2, number 113, it says, "Before contact is made with material pleasures, be fearful like a goat." That is, run away from them. But if contact is made, become like a lion. That is, chase them away. Surakachar roared like a lion, brandishing his unsheathed sword and frightening the woman away. After expelling her from the house, he thought, "Staying here is dangerous." Without wasting a moment, he mounted his horse and rode through the night to Gadara. Upon reaching Gadara, Surakachar entered the Darbar Gad, or the royal courtyard, where Shriji Maharaj was addressing a sabha. Seeing him, Shriji Maharaj turned to the assembly and declared, "Here comes our Jati, or the celibate devotee. Even in solitude, when tempted by a woman, he remained pure and untainted." Saying this, Shriji Maharaj embraced Surakachar with immense pride. In this age of Kali Yuga, Bhagwan Swaminarayan established a divine satsang fellowship where such strict dharma is upheld, turning Kali Yuga into Satyug, an era of truth and purity. Shriji Maharaj explains in Vachanamrut Grha section 2, number 33, If a person strictly observes the vow of non-lust, then even if I were 1,000 miles away from him, I would still be close to him. Conversely, if a person is slack in his observance of the vow of non-lust, then even if he is beside me, he is as good as 100,000 miles away, and I only like the service offered by a devotee who is lust-free. No matter how far away we may be from the Satpurush in terms of physical distance, the key to being with him, undoubtedly and without fail, is following the vow of non-lust. In today's technological age, it is easy to become careless regarding this principle. Social media, movies, web series, TV shows, and inappropriate internet use can weaken our vow of non-lust. To remain in Maharaj in the Satpurush's divine presence, we must avoid activities that compromise our purity, use technology wisely and with discretion, follow the principle: for men, one woman, eternal celibacy, and for women, one man, eternal celibacy. If we hold fast to Nishkam Dharma, we too will always remain in the loving embrace of Sriji Maharaj and the Satpurush. With whom does Sriji Maharaj get along? Murji Brahmachari served Sriji Maharaj with great devotion. Once in Bhadra, Sriji Maharaj gave Murji Brahmachari his mojri, or his shoes, and instructed him, "Apply oil to these shoes yourself. Do not give them to anyone else." Following Sriji Maharaj's Agna, Murji Brahmachari began oiling the mojri. At that moment, Vashram Bhai arrived and requested, "You serve Maharaj daily, so allow me to do this seva today." He insisted and took the mojri from Murji Brahmachari and began oiling them. Sriji Maharaj then passed by and saw what had happened. Sriji Maharaj asked Murji Brahmachari, "I had told you not to give the mojri to anyone. Why did you give them to Vashram Bhakta?" To test Murji Brahmachari's faith, the all-knowing Sriji Maharaj said, "You are excommunicated. From today you shall not wear shoes or eat rich and sweet foods." With this, Sriji Maharaj relieved him of his seva immediately. Murji Brahmachari then went to Ramdas Bhai in Dabhan and stayed with him for 6 months. Once the summer came around, the mangoes of the Dabhan mango orchard ripened. Ramdas Bhai prepared a basket of 1.5 maunds, or 60 kilograms, of mangoes for Sriji Maharaj, but there was no one to deliver them. Murji Brahmachari immediately volunteered, saying, "Give it to me. I will take it." Despite the scorching summer heat, he walked barefoot to Gadara, carrying the heavy basket of mangoes. Upon reaching Gadara, where Sriji Maharaj was in Sabha, he placed the mangoes before him, bowed, and said, "Jai Swami Narayan." But Sriji Maharaj turned his face away and did not respond. As Murji Brahmachari wandered through the village, a Sutaran woman, or a carpenter's wife, recognized him and asked, "Brahmachari, why haven't you been seen for so long?" He then narrated the incident of Sriji Maharaj's Agna. Feeling compassionate, she invited him to her home and offered ghee, jaggery, flour, and other groceries. But Murji Brahmachari only ate bati, or baked dough ball, and returned the ghee and jaggery. When the women asked, "Why did you refuse the ghee and jaggery?" Murji Brahmachari replied, "Maharaj has forbidden me from eating rich and sweet food." Even while excommunicated, he faithfully adhered to Sriji Maharaj's penance for 6 months. This demonstrated the extraordinary divinity he had in Sriji Maharaj. Seeing his devotion, the woman took him to Sriji Maharaj and, while scolding, asked, "Maharaj, how have you become so merciless? This Brahmachari walked barefoot for 60 miles in this scorching heat to bring you mangoes, and you didn't even greet him?" Sriji Maharaj smiled and said, "I have nothing against him. Call him here." Hearing this, Murji Brahmachari was instantly reinstated in Sriji Maharaj's seva. He immediately prepared and served Maharaj ras and rotli, bringing joy to Sriji Maharaj once again. Despite being tested through humiliation and hardship, Murji Brahmachari never wavered, never felt distressed, and maintained unwavering bhakti of Sriji Maharaj. That is why Bhagwan Swami Narayan praised him, saying, This brahmachari never wavers in his faith, which is why I have a deep connection with him and get along with him. How can we connect with Bhagwan and the Gunatit Sant? Shriji Maharaj states in the Vachnamrut in Gadara section number 176, a true satsangi is a person who remains totally undisturbed until the end of his life, regardless of whatever stern commands I may impose, even if I compel him to forsake his preferences and enforce my own. In fact, I effortlessly and naturally develop affection for such a devotee. If we cultivate such unwavering faith and maintain divinity in all his actions, then Shriji Maharaj and the Satpurush will always remain connected with us. Satsang above all. In the village of Sundaryana resided Himraj Shah, a wealthy merchant of the Mod Vanik community. Himraj Shah was a devoted leader of the Vaishnav tradition and a follower of Vallabh Swami. Among his 3 sons, the eldest, Vanasha, embraced the Swaminarayan Satsang. Whenever Vanasha spoke to his father about the greatness of Bhagwan Swaminarayan, Himraj Shah would firmly respond, Vallabh Swami is the only true Swami. All others are divine, but secondary. Himraj Bhai held this conviction firmly. Once, Yogmurti Gopalanand Swami visited Sundaryana. Himraj Shah had no intention of meeting him, but due to his expertise in Ayurveda, he naturally felt inclined to serve Swamis. Vanasha cleverly invited his father to the mandir under the pretense of checking Gopalanand Swami's health. Himraj Shah sat beside Swami and placed his hand on Swami's wrist to check his pulse. But to his astonishment, he could not detect a pulse anywhere. Each time he attempted to find Swami's pulse on his hands, feet, throat, or chest, it seemed to disappear. This experience shocked Himraj Shah. He realized that this was no ordinary man, but a perfect yogi with Ashtanga Yoga mastery. He thought, if a disciple possesses such divine powers, then surely his guru, Swaminarayan, must be Bhagwan himself. Himraj Shah bowed to Gopalanand Swami with firm conviction, embraced the Swaminarayan Satsang. Himraj Shah bowed to Gopalanand Swami and, with firm conviction, embraced the Swaminarayan Satsang. From then on, Himraj Shah began worshipping the manifest Purushottam, Sri Swaminarayan Bhagwan. However, his relatives and community disapproved. They tried to convince him to renounce Swaminarayan, but failed, as he remained firm in his conviction. Seeing his unwavering resolve, the community leaders decided to excommunicate him. They decreed that no one should interact with him, conduct business with him, or attend any family events. Thus 6 years passed in isolation. As Himraj Shah's final moments approached, he called his 3 sons, Vanasha, Punjasha, and Jetasha, along with his nephew, Bhagasha. He advised them, "This world is temporary. Stay patient, remain fearless, and hold on to satsang with unshakable faith. Always act in a way that pleases Shriji Maharaj." Saying this, he left his body while remembering Bhagwan Swaminarayan. When it was time for Himraj Shah's final rites, his sons sent invitations across villages and made elaborate preparations. They purchased ghee, sugar, and jaggery in large quantities. Seeing this, the community elders arrived with a warning. If you include satsang in the final rites, we will excommunicate you too, and the rituals will be ruined. Remove your kanti, and everyone will attend. Vanasha boldly replied, "No one abandons their mansion out of fear of mosquitoes. Likewise, we will never abandon Swaminarayan, nor will we remove our kanti. Our faith is as dear to us as our heads." Hearing this, the community leaders proposed another compromise. At least remove your kanti just for the day of the ceremony. If not, then stay hidden in a room until the guests finished eating. But the brothers stood firm. They declared, "Even if the earth itself collapses, we will never leave satsang." Therefore, the community leaders sent letters to all surrounding villages, warning, whoever attends Himraj Shah's funeral will be excommunicated. Upon learning of this injustice, Vanasha sent his nephew, Hirabhai, and Bhagabhai to Gadpur to inform Shriji Maharaj. Hearing about their unshakable faith, Shriji Maharaj was moved to tears and said, These brothers have given up their community for us and have taken such a firm stand." Saying this, he immediately traveled to Sundaryana with his swamis and devotees. For several days, the three brothers prepared a variety of delicious meals for Shriji Maharaj, the swamis, and the devotees, lovingly serving them. Not only did Shriji Maharaj partake in the offerings, but he also played ras, did rangutsav, or sprayed swamis and devotees with colors, and filled everyone's hearts with divine bliss. Himraj Shah's family was honored by Shriji Maharaj's Krupa, or his grace, and they felt eternally grateful to Shriji Maharaj for his presence during their father's funeral rites. Satsang is our true and divine family. Shriji Maharaj and Swami are our real parents, and the Swamis and devotees are our closest relatives. Having received such an invaluable family, should we ever forsake it for worldly relationships? Let us never allow our faith to weaken, for losing such a rare and divine satsang would be an immeasurable loss. Addicted to serving. One morning in Gadpur, as devotees were making their way to Akshar Ordi for their daily darshan of Shriji Maharaj, they noticed an unpleasant sight. A dog had soiled the very platform where Shriji Maharaj would sit. Seeing this, people murmured among themselves, "Oh no, the very spot where Maharaj sits for Katha has been dirtied. Where will Maharaj hold the Sabha now? This is terrible. But what can be done? Dogs act according to their nature." Despite the filth being in plain sight, the devotees only discussed it, expressed their displeasure, and walked away. A short while later, Ukakacha arrived. He had just taken his morning bath in the Gela river and was on his way to Shriji Maharaj's darshan, when his eyes fell upon the defiled platform beneath the neem tree. He immediately thought, "Maharaj will soon come here for Sabha. By cleaning this, everyone will benefit from the Katha, and I will also get the opportunity to do seva." Without hesitation, he grabbed a broom and water, cleaned the entire platform, bathed again in the Gela river, and then went for darshan. Seeing Ukakacha approaching, Sri Hari, the Antaryami Bhagwan, turned to him and, intending to teach everyone a lesson, asked, "Bhaktaraj, you usually arrive early, but today you are late. Why is that?" Ukakacha was a silent sevak, unwilling to speak of his own seva. He remained quiet. Another devotee, however, narrated the entire incident, explaining why he had arrived late. Everyone assumed Shriji Maharaj would scold him for the delay, but instead, Shriji Maharaj was immensely pleased. Shriji Maharaj stood up, embraced Ukakacha, and placed his lotus feet on his chest. Addressing the Sabha, Shriji Maharaj said, "You all saw the filth on the platform beneath the neem tree. Yet, none of you resolved to clean it. Only one who truly understands my glory and has a heart for seva could perform such seva as Ukakacha did today." Every morning, he and his wife would wake up early, bathe, perform their puja, and then sweep the entire road from Dada Kacha's Darbar to Unmat Ganga, carefully removing stones and thorns to ensure that Swamis and Shriji Maharaj could walk without discomfort. During summer, after sweeping, he would sprinkle water along the path to keep the ground cool for those walking barefoot. This habit of selfless seva became his very nature. Ukakacha recognized the greatness of all Swamis and devotees of Sri Hari and dedicated himself wholeheartedly to seva, seeking only Shriji Maharaj's Rajipo. Thus, Ukakacha's name is remembered in the Swaminarayan Sampradaya for his selfless service and humility. So pleased was Sri Hari with his seva that in Vachnamrut Garara section 2, number 25, Shriji Maharaj says, "Just as Ukakacha has become addicted to serving the Swamis, in the same way, if one becomes addicted to serving God and his Sant to the extent that one would not be able to stay for even a moment without serving them, then all of the impure desires in one's antakaran will be destroyed." How often do we come across opportunities to do various sevas in our mandir? But instead of taking ownership of them, do we think, "Oh, that's the kitchen team's job. That's the facility team's responsibility. That's for the maintenance crew. That's for the Sabha coordinators. And walk away? Or do we, like Ukakacher, seize the moment, recognize the mahima of seva, and serve selflessly, with devotion, humility, and the sole intention of pleasing our Guru and Bhagwan? By seizing such opportunities for seva with faith and sincerity, we will experience the true fruits of selfless service. A bhakta with Suradbhav is my very heart. Jinabai was a devotee with a deep understanding of Sri Hari's divine glory. He equally revered all devotees of Sriji Maharaj. Once during a visit to Mangrol for some work, Jinabai heard of the severe illness of Kamarshi Vaja, a fellow devotee of Sriji Maharaj. Moved by concern, he immediately went to check on him. What he saw pained him deeply. Kamarshi Bhai was bedridden, unable to care for himself, and his bodily functions were confined to the very bed he lay on. No one had been cleaning up after him, and flies swarmed over his frail body. Seeing Jinabai, Kamarshi Bhai broke into tears. Jinabai asked, "Why are you in such a state?" With sorrow, Kamarshi Bhai replied, "No one is willing to care for me, and this is my fate. I only wish Maharaj would take me to Dham now." Hearing this, Jinabai called for Kamarshi Bhai's sons, hoping they would serve their ailing father, but none of them were willing to take responsibility. This sight filled Jinabai with grief. He then asked, "What if I were to take Kamarshi Bhai to my house in Panchara?" "That would certainly lessen our burden," they replied. "You can take him right now." Without hesitation, Jinabai went around the market and hired 3 laborers to carry Kamarshi Bhai's cot. Since a 4th laborer was unavailable, Jinabai himself took up one leg of the cot on his shoulder while holding the reins of his mare in his other hand. Thus, the village leader of Panchara carried a devotee's bed on his shoulder as he walked through the busy markets of Mangrol. A short distance later, a 4th laborer was found, and Jinabai brought Kamarshi Bhai home, giving him a place in his own room and personally tending to his care. Since Kamarshi Bhai's arrival, Jinabai's sister, Adiba, had been sulking, but since her brother was the village leader, she didn't dare to voice her complaints openly. One day, Kamarshi Bhai was suffering from a severe headache, and Jinabai requested Adiba for some ground black pepper to prepare a medicinal paste. Adiba replied coldly, "We're out of black pepper." Jinabai understood her intent, suppressed his pain, and said nothing. A few days later, he pretended to have a headache himself and asked for black pepper. This time, Adiba immediately ground the black pepper and offered to apply the paste on his forehead. Jinabai took the bowl, smashed it onto the ground, and furiously asked, "Where did this pepper suddenly come from? You refuse to serve a devotee of Maharaj, and you think I wouldn't notice? From this moment, you are no longer my sister. Do not show me your face again." In his unwavering devotion to a fellow devotee, Jinabai severed all ties with his own sister. Distressed, Adiba took her complaint to Sriji Maharaj. Srihari called Jinabai and explained the situation, advising him to reconcile. Adiba, with tears in her eyes, sought forgiveness. At Sriji Maharaj's request, Jinabai ended the silent feud with his sister. Yet, until Kamarshi Bhai's last breath, Jinabai personally cared for him. At a time when social discrimination was widespread, serving someone of a lower caste was unheard of. Yet Jinabai, a respected village leader, selflessly cared for Kamarshi Bhai with devotion. Thus, when Jinabai passed away, Sri Hari himself carried his palanquin on his shoulders. For every step Jinabai had walked carrying Kamarshi Bhai's cot, Sriji Maharaj walked twice as many, offering an eternal tribute to his service. Sriji Maharaj has said, "The extent to which one devotee has suradpanu or kinship towards another is the extent to which they are my life force. If we cultivate true suradpanu with devotees by offering service, care, and support, we become as dear to Bhagwan as life itself. And what greater fortune can there be in life than this?" Bhaktaraj Shivlal Sheth. Shivlal Sheth was a wealthy businessman during the times of Gunatitanand Swami, with assets worth 9 lakh rupees. He was raised with the values of satsang from birth. From childhood, he was blessed with the company and seva of great paramahanses like Gopalanand Swami, Gunatitanand Swami, Siddhanand Swami, Yoganand Swami, and Bhayatmanand Swami. This constant association nurtured his bhakti, enabling him to live with detachment in the material world. Initially, he was closely associated with Gopalanand Swami, but before leaving for Akshardham, Gopalanand Swami advised him, "If you wish to learn both worldly conduct and the path to moksha, go to Junagadh and seek the guidance of Gunatitanand Swami." Obeying this agna, Shivlal Bhai wholeheartedly engaged in Gunatitanand Swami's samagam with deep enthusiasm and with the sole purpose of achieving moksha. He also made significant financial contributions to the sampradaya. During Harikrishna Maharaj's Murti Pratishtha in Gadpur, he spent 22,000 rupees, a vast sum of money, to organize a grand samayo or a festival. Despite being a great donor, his greatest virtue was his humility. One day, while Gunatitanand Swami was doing katha, a crunching sound interrupted the silence. Swami asked, "Who is chewing bones in this assembly?" It turned out that Shivlal Bhai was chewing sopari, or betel nut, and the sound was noticeable. Out of embarrassment, most would want to hide their identity in the large sabha. Still, Shivlal Bhai, despite his status and prestige, stood up, walked out, spit out the sopari, and returned to the assembly without hesitation. At that moment, he took a lifelong niyam never to chew sopari again. Yet despite being corrected in front of everyone, he felt no resentment or distress. Even with immense wealth and prestige, he humbly accepted his mistake, reflecting his deep dedication to satsang. By Gunatitanand Swami's grace, Shivlal Bhai attained the highest level of restraint over his sense of sight, using his vision only for that which was pure and virtuous. Once, during a family function, his wife's younger sister, or his sister-in-law, had been staying at his house for several months. Despite living under the same roof, Shivlal Bhai, who practiced strict discipline in interacting with women, remained completely unaware of her presence. One day, while he was eating, his sister-in-law served him food. By mistake, she poured too much ghee into his rice. As he instinctively glanced up to ask, he saw her for the first time and asked, "When did you arrive?" Hearing this, she was shocked. Even after living in the same house for months, he had never once looked at her. Such was the incredible discipline he had over his senses. Shivlal Bhai's depth in meditation was also extraordinary. Once his father, Bhagadoshi, requested, "Shivlal, teach me how to meditate as you do." Shivlal Bhai humbly replied, "Father, you won't be able to meditate as I do because before I begin, I first envision setting our entire mansion and the entire city of Botad on fire. I reduce everything to ashes. Then I discard my own body and sit upon the heap of its remains." This demonstrated his profound detachment from material possessions and his physical existence. Having deeply imbibed the principles of satsang, Shivlal Sheth devoted his life to selfless service and pure devotion. Despite being a leading donor and a respected householder, he remained humble and spiritually inclined, making his life a powerful source of inspiration for all. Swami Vignan Das Ji's oneness with Bhagat Ji Maharaj. Giridhar Bhai of Thasra was the nephew of Vartal's Kothari, or the chief administrator, Shri Gordhan Bhai. From an early age, he was deeply spiritual and had many saintly qualities. His constant thought was, if I could find a great elevated Sadguru, I would become a Swami and stay with him to attain Brahmastiti, or spiritual enlightenment, in this very life. From Vachanamrit Vartal number 19, he had learned that true liberation is only possible by meeting Bhagwan, or the realized Sant connected to him. With this understanding, Girdhar Bhai made a firm resolution to seek such a Satpurush and associate with him. Determined in his pursuit, he set out on a journey through the satsang to find such a Sant. He stayed with Mana Bhagat from Gadra for 3 months, with Swamis in Kotda for 2.5 months, and in Junagadh he associated with Mahapurush Dasji and Raghuvir Dasji. However, he still did not find inner peace. He then stayed with Nirgun Dasji in Ahmedabad for 2 months, but even there he was not fully satisfied. Later he spent 2.5 months with Achyut Dasji in Bhuj, who was known for his unwavering spiritual vision of the Atma. Yet, Girdhar Bhai's heart remained unsettled. Exhausted from his search, he returned to Vartal, resuming his seva in the mandir's kothar, or the storehouse. After completing his duties, he would stand on one foot before the murti of Hari Krishna Maharaj, turning the mala and praying fervently. Pleased by his intense bhakti and determination, Shriji Maharaj finally granted him divine darshan. Overcome with joy, Girdhar Bhai with a choked voice prayed, "O Maharaj, bless me with uninterrupted bliss of your murti and reside eternally in my heart." In response, Shriji Maharaj, pleased, said, "Bhaktaraj, such a state is attained by serving a truly ekantik Satpurush, or God-realized Sant. At present, such a Satpurush is Pragji Bhakt. Go and serve him." Saying this, Shriji Maharaj disappeared. Girdhar Bhai was surprised. He thought, Maharaj did not point me towards a great Sadguru, but instead directed me to Pragji Darji, a tailor who spends his entire day stitching in the Mandir Sabha Hall? His mind wavered between belief and doubt. To resolve his inner conflict, he resumed his rigorous penance. After a month of such intense austerities, Maharaj again granted him divine darshan, smiling as he said, "Bhaktaraj, the true ekantik Satpurush in the present time is Pragji Bhakt. Beneath the guise of a tailor, he constantly beholds my divine form, has mastered ekantik dharma, and is a truly great soul. Give up the bias of caste and status and surrender to him. Only then will you find peace." Assuring him of this truth, Shriji Maharaj vanished once again. For Girdhar Bhai, this divine confirmation was enough. Without any further hesitation, he surrendered at the lotus feet of Bhagatji Maharaj, dedicating himself to his seva with body, mind, and speech. Seeing his unwavering faith, Gordhan Bhai realized that Girdhar Bhai was ready for renunciation, and so he was given Diksha and renamed as Swami Vignan Dasji. As Vignan Das Swami deepened his association with Bhagatji Maharaj, his renunciant virtues blossomed further. Through Bhagatji Maharaj's divine connection, he became singularly devoted to Shriji Maharaj's murti. He firmly believed, Bhagatji is my very Atma. Shedding all bodily consciousness, his mind, speech, and actions remained entirely immersed in Bhagwan. He achieved a state where, in all 3 states, waking, dreaming, and deep sleep, he perceived only Bhagwan. Such intense bhakti, however, was not always understood. People ridiculed him, calling him Bandya, Bandya, a taunt mocking his bhakti, but he remained undeterred. His divine mission was clear, to unite sincere seekers with Bhagatji Maharaj and reveal the profound greatness of the ekantik Satpurush. Wherever he went, he passionately glorified Bhagatji Maharaj, inspiring countless seekers. Soon, Bhagatji's name resounded everywhere in satsang. In an attempt to curb this growing influence, Vignan Das Swami was transferred to the distant region of Khandesh. It was an unfamiliar place where people had little knowledge of satsang. The regional language was different, and the local customs and way of life were foreign to him. Yet, undeterred, he diligently cultivated satsang in Khandesh. He spread Bhagatji Maharaj's divine glory so widely that soon shiploads of devotees began traveling from Khandesh to Moa to seek Bhagatji Maharaj's association. Even today, the satsang in Khandesh honors and cherishes the unparalleled contributions of Vignan Das Swami. Vignan Das Swami's intense yearning for liberation, his unwavering and immense love for Bhagatji Maharaj, and his relentless dedication to revealing the ekantik Satpurush will continue to inspire generations to come. An exceptional example of Divyabhav. Among the rarest Swami who dedicated their entire life to serving Brahmaswarup Shastriji Maharaj and propagating the Akshapurushottam Upasana was Sadguru Nirgun Swami. Regarding his service, Shastriji Maharaj himself once said, "In the propagation of satsang, Nirgun Swami's contribution is worth 14 annas, or 87.5%, while everyone else collectively amounts to just 2 annas, or 12.5%. Nirgun Swami relinquished prestigious positions within the Sampradaya, endured severe hardships, and tirelessly worked to spread the Akshar Purushottam Upasana. He strengthened the faith of devotees in Africa by writing detailed, scripture-like letters filled with spiritual nectar. To understand the depth of his divinity, loyalty, and unconditional allegiance towards Shastriji Maharaj, a single incident is enough. Once, in Sarangpur, Nirgun Swami's dhoti had torn. He approached Shastriji Maharaj to request a new one. Shastriji Maharaj refused and instructed him, "You won't get a new one. Instead, stitch the old one together and continue wearing it." Nirgun Swami was told to perform dandiyu, a method of tearing the dhoti down the middle and tying the ends together to make it wearable again. Despite this, Nirgun Swami did not express a single complaint. He never thought, "I serve so much, yet my Guru refuses to give me a simple dhoti." Instead, he wholeheartedly accepted the ajna. However, what happened next was even more astonishing. A traveling ascetic arrived in Sarangpur and required a dhoti. When he requested one from Shastriji Maharaj, he immediately pulled out a brand new dhoti from storage and gave it to him. Upon witnessing this, Nirgun Swami playfully remarked, "You give him a new dhoti, yet you tell me to stitch my old one?" Shastriji Maharaj calmly explained, "You have the direct support of Shriji Maharaj and Swami themselves. This ascetic has no one to rely on, so he must be given assistance." Despite exhausting himself in selfless service for the sanstha, Nirgun Swami never developed even the slightest manushya-bhav, or a human sentiment towards his Guru. Instead of feeling dejected, he praised the boundless glory of Shastriji Maharaj even more. Nirgun Swami's seva, marked by his unwavering divyabhav, unparalleled enthusiasm, and lifelong loyalty, stands as an eternal beacon of inspiration for all. Even if the universe shatters, the rope shall not break. As per the grand resolve of Brahmaswarup Shastriji Maharaj, the construction of the Sarangpur Mandir was in full swing. The Swamis and devotees worked tirelessly, day and night, dedicating themselves completely to this sacred endeavor. Soma Bhagat, a man of immense stature, was among them, lifting and placing massive Porbandar stones with such might that all who witnessed it were awestruck. He served with the steadfast conviction, "If I give my life in this seva, I will attain a seat in Akshardham before Maharaj." One incident in particular showcased Soma Bhagat's unwavering patience and unshakable faith in the Guru's word. A massive pillar stone, weighing approximately 150 mounds, or 3,000 kilograms, was being hoisted into place at the center of the temple. It was secured by 7 thick ropes and was being lifted inch by inch to the chants of Swaminarayan, Swaminarayan, Swaminarayan. Suddenly, one rope snapped. Before anyone could react, another broke, then another, and another, until 6 ropes had snapped, leaving the entire weight of the stone hanging by just a single remaining rope. Everyone feared the worst. If the stone plummeted, it would shatter the carefully placed stones below, leading to great damage. Despite the danger, no one let go of the rope. Some devotees rushed to call Shastriji Maharaj, who arrived swiftly. He raised one hand and firmly said, "The stone will not fall." Someone hesitantly suggested, "Should we lower it slowly?" But Shastriji Maharaj's response stunned everyone. "Why lower it? Lift it higher." Turning towards Soma Bhagat, Shastriji Maharaj said, "Soma Bhagat, climb onto the stone and retie the broken ropes. A wave of shock spread through the crowd. Climb onto a stone hanging by a single rope? If Soma Bhagat, a man of immense size, were to step on it, the stone would crash down with him. But Soma Bhagat saw something beyond this world. He saw Akshardham in his Guru's Agna. There was only one unwavering truth for him. The Guru's word must never go unfulfilled. Without hesitation, this 35-year-old giant sprinted forward and climbed onto the stone. As soon as his full weight pressed down, the stone shook violently, causing a jerk that sent shock waves through the 20 men holding the rope below. The entire crowd stood frozen in fear, anticipating a disaster. But Soma Bhagat remained undeterred. He began retying the broken ropes with lightning speed. 1, 2, 3. Even amidst this perilous task, his gaze kept returning to Shastriji Maharaj. There stood his Guru, calm, unwavering, with his blessing hand raised in absolute assurance. This gave Soma Bhagat unshakable certainty. Even if the entire universe were to shatter, the stone will not fall. Once the ropes were fully secured, Soma Bhagat climbed down, rushed to Shastriji Maharaj, and bowed at his feet. Shastriji Maharaj placed his divine hand upon Soma Bhagat's head, locking eyes with him, radiating infinite grace and satisfaction. The crowd murmured in awe. Blessed is Soma Bhagat. Blessed is his unwavering devotion to his Guru. We are the heirs of such resolute devotees who risked everything for their Guru's word. By keeping their example before us, we too can seize opportunities at any cost and in all situations to please our Guru. An opportunity not worth missing. The Murti Pratishta ceremony of Dharamkud Murtis at Sarangpur Mandir was approaching, and during this time, Shastriji Maharaj had arrived in Radhu. Just a village away, in Purushothampura, lived Ashabhai, Ishwarbhai, and Motibhai, who owned vast lands and estates. Around this time, they had built a grand new bungalow to store their agricultural produce, ensuring it was well furnished and suited to their status. They had an abundant harvest that year, 600 mounds of cotton, 700 mounds of chickpeas, 1,000 mounds of wheat, and various other grains, all stacked and ready for sale. A unit weight of 1 mound is 20 kilograms. But then disaster struck. A burning matchstick accidentally fell into the cotton, and in moments the fire spread uncontrollably. Before anyone could react, the flames engulfed everything. All their wealth, property, and possessions turned to ashes. The family barely managed to escape with just the clothes on their backs. While in Radhu, Ashabhai received this devastating news. Yet, blessed with spiritual insight from Shastriji Maharaj, he remained unmoved. Upon reaching Purushothampura, he saw everything burned to the ground, a sight that would break anyone's heart. But for this family, it was simply a divine test from Bhagwan himself. Instead of lamenting, they calmly sent a messenger to bring khichdi from Radhu, as there was nothing left to eat. That night they gathered as usual for dinner. The next day, Shastriji Maharaj arrived. Seeing the immense loss, he was deeply pained. He consoled the two brothers, but then, as if one more test remained, he remarked, "This is merely an obstacle in our work. We came to collect funds for the Sarangpur Murti Pratishta, and this misfortune occurred." For most, hearing such words at that moment would have been unbearable. It would have surely caused one to perceive Manushya-bhav, or human-like qualities in Shastriji Maharaj. But Ashabhai, Ishwarbhai, and Motibhai were no ordinary devotees. They saw Shastriji Maharaj as Bhagwan himself. Even after losing everything, their only thought was fulfilling their Guru's Agna. Without hesitation, Ashabhai asked Motibhai to take a loan from a money lender. Once the funds were secured, they placed the money at Shastriji Maharaj's feet. Shastriji Maharaj, stunned by their devotion, asked, Where did you get this from? Ashabai replied, Swami, we would move heaven and earth for you. Please accept this and bless us. Seeing their unshakable faith, Shastriji Maharaj was deeply moved. He embraced them and said, in such difficult times, even when food and clothing are uncertain, bringing money on interest and offering it, who else could do such a thing? Motibai then spoke with firm conviction, Swami, only those who have the power to give generously can ask for donations at such a time. And you are the very form of Sriji Maharaj himself. If we let go of this moment, we will miss out on the divine grace you have come to bestow upon us. How could we let this opportunity slip away? It is easy to serve when times are favorable, but what kind of faith does it take to serve in adversity, hardship, and in the face of total loss? Everything was reduced to ashes, yet these devotees offered whatever they had at their Guru's feet. Can there be a greater example of surrenderance in this world? Pioneering Satsang in Africa, Magan Bhai. Magan Bhai Patel illuminated East Africa, often referred to as Andharkand, or the land covered in darkness, with the divine light of Akshar Purushottam. Until the age of 31 or 32, Magan Bhai's life revolved around luxury, food, and comfort. He worked as a railway station master in Kibwezi, maintaining a strict and disciplined nature with no tolerance for leniency. However, his Purva Sanskars, or his past virtues and divine grace, led him to meet Haribhai Patel, a devoted follower of Shastriji Maharaj, who was transferred to the same station. Through Haribhai's influence, Magan Bhai was drawn to satsang. Once during a trip to India, he visited Bochasan and had darshan of Shastriji Maharaj. He experienced such a divine revelation from the very first moment that he accepted Shastriji Maharaj as his guru. Overcome with emotion, he fell at Swami Shri's feet, sobbing uncontrollably. Shastriji Maharaj blessed him and said, all your past sins are forgiven. Now remain in satsang and spread it further. From that moment on, Magan Bhai dedicated himself entirely to spreading satsang. Whoever encountered him, whether big or small, was introduced to the glory of Bhagwan Swaminarayan and Shastriji Maharaj. As a station master, anyone needing approval for a wagon release had to seek Magan Bhai's permission. He would tell them, listen to my katha for a while, and then I'll grant you permission. Thus, whether known or unknown, every visitor was drawn into satsang. Between train schedules and during any free time, he used to discuss satsang over telegrams with other railway station masters who were devotees. Through the association of Nirgun Das Swami, Magan Bhai deeply studied the Vachnamrut, spending entire nights immersed in its teachings. His kathas continued from evening arti all the way until dawn, at which point people would grab their toothbrushes and begin their morning routines. He even gave up his evening meals to further spread upasana. From Tororo, Mbale, Jinja, Kampala, Masaka, Buikwe, Burura, Bukedia, Nagongera, Nairobi, and to Mombasa, he traveled tirelessly, establishing centers of spiritual discourse and instilling firm faith in Akshar Purushottam within countless souls. While singing the glories of Shastriji Maharaj, Magan Bhai would become emotional and say, by serving Shastriji Maharaj, we are directly serving Sriji Maharaj himself. We have found in this very lifetime what others attain after death. When speaking of Shastriji Maharaj's Mahima, or his glory, Magan Bhai would sometimes say, what more can I say? I have already held back my words in speaking his true glory. If I were to speak the full truth as it is, the world would break my back. His reverence for devotees was such that he would humbly roll over in the dirt sanctified by the footsteps of these devotees, and his joy of spiritual realization was so profound that he would leap in bed at night, exclaiming, I have found Shastriji Maharaj. Magan Bhai had once given his word to Shastriji Maharaj, saying, the African Satsang Mandal will complete the Gadpur Mandir project. To fulfill this vow, he encouraged devotees, saying, if Shastriji Maharaj gives us an agna to do something, should we not sell ourselves for it? When we were born as cows, bulls, buffaloes, and goats, we were sold countless times. Now, in this human birth, If we must be sold to fulfill his agna to complete Gadpur Mandir, so be it. One must be ready to die for the words of the Guru. His words radiated the true spirit of surrenderance, a burning passion to sacrifice everything for the Satpurush. Although a householder, Magan Bhai lived like a Swami. Shastriji Maharaj himself declared, "I am carrying out my mission in Africa through Magan Bhai. Seek his association." Despite living only 51 years, Magan Bhai transformed countless lives. Drenched in the ocean of his Guru's glory, he spread the Upasana of Akshar Purushottam with unparalleled dedication, becoming an eternal bead in Shastriji Maharaj's Mara. Like Magan Bhai, let us dedicate our lives to spreading the Upasana of Akshar Purushottam and become a precious bead in the Mara of our purest Guru. For in this lies the true fulfillment of life. The Vyasji of our Sampradaya. Harshad Bhai Dave was a historian of the Swaminarayan Sampradaya, often referred to as the Vyasji of the Sampradaya. His life's mission was to establish and spread the Akshar Purushottam Upasana. Over his lifetime, he penned over 6,000 pages detailing the divine lives of Bhagwan Swaminarayan and the Gunatit Gurus, making an invaluable contribution to the Sampradaya's history. Additionally, he authored various other sectarian scriptures. Despite his scholarly brilliance, which could have earned him thousands of rupees, Harshad Bhai chose to serve selflessly until his last breath, expecting nothing in return. Yogiji Maharaj once expressed his deep reverence for him, saying, "Even if we were to wash Harshad Bhai's feet and drink that water, it would still be an insufficient honor for his contributions." He had gained the inner blessings of 3 Gunatit Gurus, Shastriji Maharaj, Yogiji Maharaj, and Pramukh Swami Maharaj. This was because, along with his service, he exhibited a remarkable firmness in Nishkam Dharma, a vow of non-lust, which the Satpurush, Yogiji Maharaj, had personally instructed him to uphold with great vigilance. Once, Yogiji Maharaj was doing katha in the old Sabha hall of Gondal Mandir. As Harshad Bhai was about to enter the Sabha, a female devotee stopped him. She had brought some prasad in a container and requested him to empty it in the kitchen and return the empty container to her. Harshad Bhai did as she asked and handed back the empty container. Later, when Harshad Bhai came to bow at his feet, Yogiji Maharaj told him, "Today, what you did with the container was not appropriate." Surprised, Harshad Bhai asked, "Bapu, what was wrong? I simply emptied the food into the kitchen and returned the container. Where was my mistake?" Yogiji Maharaj explained, "The mistake was that you accepted it directly from her hands. You should have asked her to place it down first. Then you could have picked it up, emptied it, and placed it back down for her to collect. We do not directly exchange objects hand to hand. Since this was an error, observe a fast for a day as atonement." This incident highlights how meticulous Yogiji Maharaj was about even the smallest aspect of Nishkam Dharma. Since we are also engaged in spreading Upasana, our responsibility is equally significant. The Satpurush expects us to maintain the highest standards of conduct. When we uphold Nishkam Dharma with purity, we earn the Rajipo of the Satpurush. Harshad Bhai was extremely vigilant in this regard. On another occasion, a female devotee visited Harshad Bhai's home. At the same time, his wife was called by an elderly neighbor for some household assistance. She quickly stepped out to help and returned within minutes. Though Harshad Bhai was deeply engrossed in his work, upon noticing that his wife had momentarily left the house, he sternly told her, "Are you aware of what you just did? Do you not know the teachings of the Shikshapatri? I was alone in the house with another woman. You should have informed me beforehand so I could have stepped outside instead." This incident reflects the great caution Harshad Bhai exercised in following Shriji Maharaj's Agna to never remain alone with a woman other than one's spouse. In Vachnamrut Karara section 2, number 33, Shriji Maharaj states, "If a person firmly observes the vow of non-lust, then he is never far from God, whether he is in this realm or beyond. Moreover, my affection for such a person never diminishes. Even if I were 1,000 miles away from him, I would still be close to him. Harshad Bhai enjoyed the immense Rajipo of the Satpurush due to his unwavering commitment to Nishkam Dharma. If we, too, maintain purity in Seva and steadfastly uphold Nishkam Dharma, we will experience the constant presence of Mahant Swami Maharaj. Only then will we attain his Rajipo in grace.